Okay, so you have negative 4x minus 2y equals negative 12, and 4x plus 8y equals negative 24. If you're looking at this, substitution would not be best because we don't already have a variable solved for. So elimination is what would work best for this one. What variable term would eliminate, the x value or the y value? The x value. How do we know? Because they're opposites. Yeah, we have a negative 4 and a positive 4. So when we begin to use elimination by adding, we just start adding. So negative 4 plus 4, that cancels. It's 0. We're not going to write a 0. Negative 2 plus 8. And then negative 12 plus negative 24. And now what's my next step? Yeah, divide by 6. And y equals? Yes, negative 6. Be careful with your signs. Now we're going to take that and we're going to put it back into one of the equations. I'm just going to put it back into this bottom equation. I'm going to place it in for this y value because we solved for y. So if we solve for y, we replace the y. So I'm going to rewrite it next to it. 4x plus 8, and the y value is, and equals negative 24. Now start to simplify. What's 8 times negative 6? Equals negative 24. Now we need to get the x variable alone. So that means we need to do the inverse of negative 48 and add 48. These cancel. Bring down your 4x. Negative 24 plus 48? Positive 24. Divide by 4. And x equals? X equals 6. So what's my final answer?
6, negative 6.
Yes, it has to be in that order or it will be incorrect, right? Okay, so I have a question for you. How do I know if this is right?
Put them as negative 6 and negative 6 for y value and x value.
Yeah, take your x value and your y value. The 6 is x, the negative 6 is the y, right? So just put it back in and see if it works. So this top equation, take negative 4 times 6 minus 2, what is the y value? Negative 6 equals negative 12, and see if it works. I'm going to write these in a different color to show you that those were replaced. What's negative 4 times 6?
Negative 24.
Negative 24. And what's negative 2 times negative 6? Plus 12, right? Equals negative 12. What's negative 24 plus 12? Does negative 12 equal negative 12? Yes, it does. So it checks. Now we have to test it for the second equation because it has to work for both. So now it's 4 times 6 plus 8 times negative 6 equals negative 24. And so now I replaced the 6 and the x and the y with 6 and negative 6. What's 4 times 6? What's 8 times negative 6? Equals negative 24. Just bring it down. What's 24 minus 48? And does negative 24 equal negative 24? So we know that we did our whole thing correct. Now, you should be getting whole numbers as you work through your assignment today. But if you come across a system of equations and your answer choices are ordered pairs, just know that if you're not sure which method to use, you can just take your ordered pairs and test them for each one. So let's do an example like that. So we're going to do number 2 now. Copy this down. Try to make sure I pick you a good one. Okay. So y equals negative 3x plus 1. And 4x plus y equals 3. Now this one would be a good candidate for substitution, but maybe you don't like substitution. It's not a great candidate for elimination because you can't line them up. You'd have to move them around, right? It could be done, but it's just not a great candidate for it. But then I give you answer choices. Answer choice A is negative 2, negative 5. Write them down. Answer choice B is 2, negative 5. Answer choice C is negative 5, negative 2. And answer choice D is 5, negative 2. Okay, now plugging these in as answer choices for x and y might take you a little bit of time, but there are some shortcuts that you can use, okay? If you just pay attention to what you're doing. So for this one, just test the first equation and see if it works. If it works, then test the second one. If it doesn't work, it's not an answer. So for this one, the y value is negative 5. So I'm going to put negative 5 equals negative 3. What is the x value? Negative 2. And then plus 1. So what I've done here is the y value is negative 5. I replace the y with a negative 5 here. And then the x value, negative 3 times x, is now negative 3 times negative 2. What is negative 3 times negative 2? Yeah, 6 plus 1. Is negative 5 going to be equal to 6 plus 1? No, negative 5 does not equal 7. It does not, so it's not A. Now notice in the next equation, it's very similar except for they made 2 positive, right? So you have a lot of the work already written. I'm going to put the work down here. We have negative 5 equals negative 3 times 2 plus 1. Now it's a positive 2, right? It's going to change it a little bit. So the negative 5 stays. Negative 3 times 2. And what's negative 6 plus 1? Does that work? Yes, it does work. Okay, so it could be B. How do I make sure it's B? Put it in the second one. So now, because this worked, we're going to put it into the second one. So 4 times 2 plus the y value here is negative 5 equals 3. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8. What's 8 plus negative 5? 3. Does 3 equal 3? Yes, so that's how I know B is the correct answer. Because it worked for the first equation and the second equation. So if you need to make yourself a note, that's the first equation that I did. And this one was substituting back into the second equation. It's just like how we checked to see if our answer was correct, except for now I'm checking to see which answer is the correct one for me to choose. So there are several methods to doing this. All right, if you chose substitution, I'll show you substitution real quick. If y equals negative 3x plus 1, then I'm going to take this and put it in place of the y value. So then you would do 4x plus negative 3x plus 1 equals 3. So this is what I replaced. The negative 3x plus 1 is in place of this y value. 4x and negative 3x is just x. Subtract the 1, and x equals 2. So we know if x is equal to positive 2, which one is the only one with positive 2? B. So either way, we got the same answer. The method is what you get to decide. Okay? Sometimes one method is a lot easier than the other method. Sometimes we are not comfortable using a certain method, so we choose a different one.